Which organizational culture is more difficult for an agile transformation? In other words, in business, what cultural aspects increase the difficulty in successfully moving through an agile transformation? Them some big words. Let's talk about it right now. Building and nurturing an agile culture has become a business imperative as we all strive to navigate a volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous working environment. Maybe right now you're leading or taking part in an agile transformation that your company is going through. But which culture or cultural aspects might make that more challenging or difficult for you? Well, by the end of this video, you're going to have a better understanding of what an agile culture is, and 3 aspects of a culture that can drastically increase the difficulty in successfully progressing through an agile culture transformation. From bureaucracy to what might be lacking, and finally, a sentiment that may be spoken or unspoken. So let's start by defining what an agile transformation means. A definition I really like is from Case Software, which states that agile transformation is the act of transforming an organization's form or nature gradually to one that's able to embrace and thrive in a flexible, collaborative, self-organizing, and fast-changing environment. Simply put, an agile culture has the ability to think and act quickly in the face of changing circumstance or a changing environment. And an agile transformation is the process of moving a non-agile culture to a more agile one. Now, with that out of the way, let's dig through the 3 aspects that can promote increased difficulty when moving through that journey. The first aspect that can create difficulty is it being highly bureaucratic. In order to move and think quickly through change, an organization needs to foundationally have the ability to make quick, fast, efficient decisions throughout the entire organization. Bureaucratic cultures, by definition, put priority on the process, on the steps required, all the levels of decision makers that something needs to go through before a final decision is made, often standing in the way or flying directly in the face of efficiency, effectiveness, and sometimes even common sense. I have literally experienced cultures where I was trying to change the font and the color of a presentation to senior leadership, and I could not do that without going through the proper approval steps, without following the process to get those changes approved. I literally couldn't build a PowerPoint deck without going through a process. Now that very much so slowed efficiency, my own effectiveness, and honestly my motivation to actually deliver the presentation. To that end, the other way that bureaucratic cultures can stand in the way of moving through an agile transformation is they actually inspire burnout. These really rigorous processes can make teams have to do redundant work, where they might be working through certain steps, hoping that they'll get approval. Teams often continue through the change journey, taking actions, doing the work, perhaps waiting for a key decision to get made, in hopes and anticipation that that decision will get made once it goes through the process. But then something might happen where the decision doesn't get made, or it's not the decision that they anticipated. And all the work they had been doing in anticipation to that point either has to be redone or scrapped. It can absolutely drive burnout because you're doing work over and over, having to move through these very challenging processes to move and make decisions. It's the opposite of working efficiently and effectively in decision making. By the way, if you're digging this, getting value, make sure you like, subscribe, notification. I do videos like this all the time, giving you content. So click subscribe so that you get notified when the next video drops. All right, let's keep digging in. The second aspect is a lack of employee empowerment. Agility, especially in really large workforces, requires the motivation and the engagement of everyone throughout the organization. And when those employees, the individuals in the organization, aren't empowered to make decisions, to lean into opportunities to progress their own personal growth as well as the growth of the business, they can become demotivated and check out and not be nearly as engaged as you need them to be to move forward through a change and ultimately to become an agile culture. The last aspect of a culture that can really increase the difficulty when you're moving through an agile transformation journey is a spoken or unspoken fear of failure. When you're moving through change in a very agile way, you're not always going to get things right. By nature, you're moving very quickly responding, making fast decisions. And so sometimes there's going to be setbacks, there's going to be mistakes, but that's just the risk that you're accepting to move quicker, to get ahead of competition, and to move the business forward in a very efficient way. And when you have employees, when you have a culture that don't want to talk about failure, that don't want to talk about mistakes, that don't want to, confess when things didn't go right, and then what they learn from that, there's going to be a real hesitancy to move quickly, to get into the work because of a fear of failing or making a mistake. They don't want to be the ones that have to come and speak to management and tell them how they got something wrong. And so there's almost this motivation for an analysis of paralysis, right? I don't know if I'm saying that right. Analysis paralysis, you get what I mean. But you get stuck in the state of second guessing, wanting to do things, 10, 15 different ways to make sure it's the right way before you actually pull the trigger and move forward. This can absolutely get in the way of your agility. You have to have a certain level of comfort knowing that mistakes might be made. But it's a risk that you as a culture, as an organization, and as a leadership team are going to embrace and accept. It's a risk that's worth taking if you want to become agile, moving quickly, innovating, and staying ahead of the competition. Speaking of agile transformation, speaking of leading and influencing others through change, I've got something else for you, and it's for free. I want to offer you a free recording of a keynote message that I delivered to an organization going through tremendous change, a lot of market volatility and disruption, as well as internal organizational change, and specifically the portion of the keynote where I was giving insights and sharing some of our latest research on leading, inspiring, and influencing others through change, perhaps when you're striving to become a more agile culture. I want to gift that to you for free. All you got to do is click the link below. I want to make sure you have the research, the data, and the insights to fuel you and your business's growth through even your most difficult change challenges. I'm Cassandra Worthy, and until we meet again, keep growing and keep rocking.